Hey everyone, what's going on? It's Friday afternoon. We got a short grilling Torah going on today. I want to show you the meat for one second. I got some big steaks going on, and I want to say thank you to the sponsor who gave it to me, someone who is extremely a huge Israel supporter here in Israel. Jane Keelan's here, Jerusalem Jane, and I told people that I'm not doing the grill anymore. I need some sponsors for the grills. It's 200 shekels or so a week. So she said, I'm sponsoring your grill and Torah. It's important to give it. So I want to say thank you to her. Loud shout out. Thank you for doing that. And anyone who's out there, if you want to sponsor one of these grills and Torahs, let me know because I could definitely use your help for one of these things. All right. So before I begin, I'm going to wait for a couple people to come in. We're going to invite some people. Dove is in the house. Gary's in the house. What's going on? Michael's in the house. Everyone, what's going on? Let me just hit up those people. And again, all those who are signing in right now, I'd appreciate if all those would, you'd actually hit that button that says I'll give you a notification when I go live, because I spend the first couple of seconds inviting people in. If I'm not answering you right now, I'm sorry. I'm actually not looking at the screen. I'm looking at the invite screen and getting some people in here, and I'd love all your help to do that. Before I begin, Tobias, shalom. Before I begin, I want to tell everyone again, rock your non-Jewish world. Hey, Yitzchak, what's going on? So before I begin, I want to tell you very quickly what we're doing for Rosh Hashanah. The IDF called Standing Together, the Shabbat Shalom Man, the organization that I run, around a week ago, and said, guys, we need your help. We have a list of families, Israeli IDF families of IDF soldiers who are in financial trouble. They don't have money, and their sons and daughters, IDF soldiers who are on duty. They decided they're not going home for the Chag. They're not going home for Rosh Hashanah. They don't want to be a burden on their family, a financial burden. That's what the situation is. So they told us to stand together, and we said, no way, it ain't happening. We will help you. These guys have to go home. These men and women have to go home for the holidays and be able to celebrate with their families. It's crazy that these are the ones who are on duty and can't get home. We immediately said we're taking the project on. So we did that, and what we're doing right now, we have less than 2 weeks to get it done. Less than 2 weeks, and I need your help. So what we're doing is, our goal, we said right now we're going to do 400 families, IDF families we're going to do. And what we're doing is we're basically delivering boxes of goods and foods, as well as giving them cards that families can go actually to the stores and buy it themselves so they're not embarrassed. Each package in one of the things is $70. That's what it's for a full family of the holiday. Our goal is 400 families. That's $28,000 altogether. If everyone who watches this video, everyone hits that link, we would be done. We'd be getting more than done. We'd get to thousands, not just 400. So I'm putting on the link right now for the Rosh Hashanah campaign. And, after the video, after I'm done, I really am going to ask everybody, please, to hit that link. And if everybody's watching this, every person who watches the Grill and Torah today donates one package, or even less, and just, give something, we can get to so many more soldiers. All right? Let me just get the people in. We're going to talk about this week's Parsha. Really, first, it's the Parsha with the most amount of commandments in it. The most amount of mitzvot are in this Parsha, Teitzei. But it's a little bit of a strange Parsha because it mixes up things that look to be, kindness with cruelty, and things today that would seem to be racist and chauvinist. And, at the same time, we're talking about having appreciation even for inanimate objects and for animals. So the question is, where does this lie? So give me 1 second. Let's get these people in. And we're going to get started with Parshat Teitzei. For those who don't know Deuteronomy, we are in Parshat Teitzei this week. And again, just for a little trivia, this Parsha, which this actually heard from my father many, many years ago in elementary school, I remember he taught it. This Parsha has the most commandments out of all the Parshiot in the Torah. Is this week's Parsha. So the Parsha opens up, Ki tetzei lemilchama al oivecha, when you go out to war against your enemy. And the pasuk then goes on. Let me just flip those stakes. So it says the following: You go out, you fight your enemies in war, and God will give you your enemies in your hands, give you victory. And then it says, "V'shavita shivyo," and you will, or you did take in a prisoner. In other words, first let's ask a question about this first pasuk. It says, Ki tetzei lemilchama, when we go out to war, right? The idea of soldiers, people go out to war. And then it says, we go out to war against on your enemies. And God will give you your enemies in your hands. They will basically lose the war. And the question is, if God's giving the enemies in our hands, what do I have to go out for? Just, snap your fingers, God, make a miracle. I don't have to go to war, right? During Hanukkah, right? We know the Matim Mul Rabim, right? The Matim won the many and the weak one, the strong. What do we need it for? Just God, snap your fingers and let the war be over. So no, there's a matter of effort that we have to take in this world. It is not, God save me and that's it. It's not, it won't work and hopefully God will help me. That's not the way it works in Judaism. But here we're talking about, it says that you're going out to war, you're going to fight your enemies, and God will give your enemies in your hands. Now, you would think if the Parsha starts off with that, if the whole Parsha starts off, Shabbat Shalom Rachel, with war, so you would think this whole Parsha would be dealing with enemies and war and things that are not civil. I mean, not civil duties, right? Not if you borrow money, if you pay your things, if how do you act with your wife, and how does the wife act with the husband? Those things are not really involved in a Parsha. It's with war, right? If a Parsha is about war, right, you don't expect to open up, right? If you're watching an action movie, you don't expect to see a love scene, and it's a romantic scene, right? It's if you're looking at, like, if you're watching a movie with like Rambo or like Commando or what, and the movie is considered action, you don't expect to see, the princess lived happily ever after. If I wanted to see that, I would have gone and seen another movie. So in a Parsha that has to do with war, you would expect that the whole Parsha would be dealing with things with war, okay? And be careful how you act to others, and don't cut down trees during the war, which is actually a commandment in Judaism. What to do with POWs and all that stuff would be sensible. And the truth of it is, the Parsha does start off with that. The first whole part of this Parsha is that if you do have POWs, and it does, but then the Parsha goes into some really wild stuff. And what does it go into? It goes right after this into the idea of relations, in other words, between husband and wife. How should you talk to each other? How should you not talk to each other? Do you suspect each other? What does that do with war? And then it goes into the next thing of capital punishment, the idea of death penalty in Judaism, right? We know there is such a thing, and it wasn't done very often or at all. We know that a court, the Sanhedrin in Yerushalayim, the high court, the real Supreme Court, not what we have today in Israel, if they did have to pass a death penalty, it was after the person got warned and after there were witnesses. It was pretty impossible to get there. But even if you got there, and it says you carried out the death penalty, you have to take whatever death penalty you gave, you have to take the body down right away. Because, listen to the words, Ki kilelat Elokim talui. We're talking about someone who was hung. Kilelat Elokim talui, the curse of God is hung. What does that mean? He's saying man was created in Tzelem Elokim, in the image of God, if you want a bad translation. And therefore, even when that person did evil things, we're hanging him. Oh, that's terrible. Yeah. Can you imagine social justice warriors about death penalty? How could you do that? So Judaism says yes, but then you have to take the body down right away. Because it's a curse of God having a human being up, because a human being was created by God, and it's Tzelem Elokim. Now, what does that have to do with our lives? For example, if we kill a terrorist, right? A terrorist comes to murder Jews, and we kill the terrorist. No, this doesn't mean you should treat the terrorist before he's dead. Okay? I'm not saying what we should do in Israel today by law. I'm talking about morality according to the Torah. Okay? There is no compassion to terrorists. According to the Torah, it's zero. And I personally believe that it's misplaced compassion by those who have compassion to terrorists. It's what in Judaism we say, someone who is compassionate to the cruel. At the end of the day, will be cruel to those who deserves compassion. So the Torah here says, yes, if capital punishment is deserved, right? So it's done. But right after it's done, you got to take the body down. You have to bury it with respect. Why? Because it calls, as long as that body's up, it's like cursing God. Because man, women, and child, humans are made in the spirit and the Tzelem Elokim with the spirit of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, with the spirit of God, right? So that goes into first. It goes into how do husband and wife behave to each other. Then it goes into the death penalty. Again, civil. We're not talking about war with enemies. And then it talks about something completely different. It says if you're walking in the street and you see your friend's shor chamo, his bull or his animal, walking around and lost, or you find his shirt, you find his jacket, you have a commandment to pick it up, keep it in your house and keep it safe, and give it back to the rightful owner. Now, again, that's awesome. That's great, okay? But the question is, what does it have to do with war? That is the last thing I want to talk about. We're talking about fighting external enemies, and it comes and it talks about if you find someone's lost item, you have to take care of it and give it back to the owner. This is not the place. Like I said when I started out, if you went into the movie theater and you went to see an action movie, right, and all of a sudden you have this like a romance movie, right, you're going to walk out of there. So here we're talking about a Parsha with war. What is, if you find someone's belongings, give it back to them, have to do with war? But it gets better than it goes on. Then it talks like this. Then it goes on. And it talks about if you're walking in the street and you see your neighbors or your friends' animal falling, all things fall off the animal's back, right? All the things that the donkey is carrying falls off. You are not allowed to ignore that. You have to stop over and you have to help that person put everything back on the back of his donkey or whatever it is. Now I have to tell you that last night, mamash last night, at 4 o'clock in the morning, for those of you who didn't see the video, by the way, 4 o'clock in the morning, I was coming back from Hebron, and a car in front of me spun out of control and smashed into the divider. I saw it was an Israeli license plate. I stopped over the side of the road. There was oil all over the road. Now, intentional or not by the Arabs, I don't know, but it was all over the road. It didn't look like a spill, but it was really there. And I stopped, and in my mind, I'm thinking, this week's Parsha. It's this week's Torah portion. You see someone in trouble, you got to stop and help them. So, of course, that's the right thing to do. But the question again has to be asked: what does that have to do with war? What does it have to do with the rules of engagement? Nothing, right? You're talking about being kind. On the other hand, we're talking about going to war, right? You can imagine, we'll call them the social justice warriors saying, well, oh, you're kind to people, you're going to kill people, right? Well, and then it goes on. This is really interesting. Then it completely goes into a different area. And it says the following. It says that a man's clothing or vessel should not be on a woman, and a man should not be wearing women's clothing. Cross-dressing. What does this have to do with war? Now, there's no question here, by the way, that this is considered, it says abomination according to the Torah. But again, abomination or not, what does this have to do with war? Okay, I'm not going into the whole subject of cross-dressing. I'm not going in there. But what, again, now, it goes further. And the next commandment in this week's Parsha is called Kansipo. What is Kansipo? If you find yourself a nest in your house, right? You find yourself a nest in your house. Who's that? Larry, let me know. Let me know your ideas. Let me know your ideas. You find a nest in your house. You have to shoo away the mother bird, and then you could take the young for your whatever, your consumption, whatever you want. And, the reason if they talk about compassion and whatnot, again, wonderful. And by the way, that commandment is one of the only commandments in the Torah that gives you long life as a reward. And again, I'm not going into the commandment itself. What does that kind of compassion have to do with war? I'm open for suggestions here by anyone who wants to give them. If anyone wants to come on live, let me know and I'll invite you in. Then it goes really off the chart. The Torah, after it talks, again, we went through a bunch of things. After it talks about shooing away the mother bird before you take the eggs, it goes on and talks about kilayim. Okay, it talks about you can't plant two kinds of plants together. You can't let the cow and the mule pull the plow together. And again, compassion, because one goes faster than the other. Wonderful. But again, what does this have to do with war? Okay? And then at the end of the Parsha, it talks about you have to pay your workers on time. Again, wonderful. Wonderful. What does that have to do with the war? So Stephanie says one must have compassion during war. Stephanie, that's a great answer, but factually, according to Judaism, that is 100% false. We know the rules of engagement according to Judaism. We know the kings, how they fought wars. There was no compassion for the enemy. Zero. So it seems that it's the opposite, And David HaMelech, King David, by the way, who fought wars, a bunch of wars, right, were victorious and whatever, he was not allowed to build a temple because he said blood on his hands. Blood on his hands. He was killing the enemy of Israel. Let's see what it says. Kelsey, in relation to war, where cross-dressing is, I'm thinking deception. Oh, interesting. But no, it's an interesting, but it's not talking about war. It's not saying, well, you can't even do this in war. It's saying that you can't do this. And in the beginning of the parasha, it's talking about war. Nothing to do with each other. It's not that you can't do it in war. There's nothing to do with each other, right? Sending the bird away before you take the eggs, all these things, how a man relates to a woman, it has nothing to do with war. Okay, so what is going on here? Well, let's go back to the original statement here. Ki Teitzei milchama. When you go out to war, on your enemies. Unetanu Hashem Elokecha biyadecha. And God gives them in your hands. There is almost a guarantee that God will allow us to win. But we've lost wars before. So what does that mean? Ki Teitzei milchama. When I go out to war, and God gives us our enemies in our hands. Well, we've lost the wars. I don't have to give you, not Israel, the Jews. I don't have to go back to the Holocaust. People ask all the time, where was God in the Holocaust? So what are you talking about? The Oivim came to, the enemies came to us, and they tried to destroy us, annihilate us. So where was God? And what does this pasuk mean that when you go out to war and God will give in your hands? So the connection is simple. You see, with people who believe that there's never any reason for war. We'll call them leftists for argument's sake, okay? There's never ever any reason for war. For those people, yeah, there's no connection between the two, between all the subjects that I just read, between going out and having to kill people and acting like a basic human being wherever you live. There's no connection. But to someone who has morals, and someone whose morals are not dependent on their own brain opinion, well, they're completely intertwined, because although I go out to war, I have to keep the morals. The issue is, who decides morals? Well, only God decides the morals. Okay, at any point in time, if I decide, well, it's moral to do A, B, and C when it's not according to God, again, I'm becoming immoral. Now, what does it have to do with war? Well, the issue is the following. We, Bnei Israel, the nation of Israel, the state of Israel today, okay, we have 650 million Muslims around us. None of the countries want us to exist, including the ones we made peace with, quote unquote. Okay, none of them want us to exist. They'd love to see us disappear tomorrow. Okay, 650 million Muslims. We're around 6 million Jews in Israel. Okay, if anyone thinks that we are surviving here only by the might of the IDF, and again, you look at the guy who's in the IDF and deals with them and supports them in every turn. Okay, so I'm not bashing the IDF. IDF soldiers are courageous. The men and women are courageous beyond belief. I'm there. I've seen it. But if we think our victories are only dependent upon how courageous they are, that's a little bit crazy. 650 million Muslims around us, 6 million Jews, it's not going to work. Okay? There were less Nazis in Germany than there are Muslims who want us dead around the Middle East. It didn't work there. So you said we have an army today. That's true. But again, the might of the army can only, in other words, if they would just, imagine they just sent all 650 million, onto Israel at once. Well, how many bullets do we have, right? We don't have 600, again, it's ridiculous. But the point is, no, we're not surviving because of that. That is the tool. And thank God we have the courageous men and women of the IDF. But the point is, it says here, and Hashem will give your enemies in your hands. That doesn't mean we have to work. Yes, we have to go to the army, we have to fight, and we have to fight hard. But at the end of the day, every victory is a miracle. And we see that today for sure. Every victory that Israel had is a miracle. Miracle beyond belief. You want to talk about the 48 war, when we came out of the camps and the Sephardi Jews came out of Arabian places where they knew how to farm. We had no knowledge of war. Jews had no knowledge of war for 2,000 years. Zero. No training. 1948, 5-6 Arab countries come against the 2-week-old Israel. We're smaller than the size of New Jersey, and the Arab neighbors around us are thousands of times bigger than the state of Israel, and we outnumber us by I don't know how many to one. And we won that war. Totally miraculous. 1967, again, Arab countries are calling for our destruction or annihilation, and in 6 days, we completely destroy 6 Arab armies, completely destroy them, and liberate areas that we haven't had control over in 2,000 years. Miraculous. Miraculous. I mean, I've seen miracles in war myself, but we're back. Sorry about that. I've seen miracles in war myself, but we're not going to go into that right now. But the point is, that's what we're dependent on. Yes, we have brave soldiers who fight, but without those miracles, without God on our side, it ain't going to work. Well, what is God on our side? To have brave soldiers is very, very important. It's one of the commandments in the Torah. If you are fearful to go out to war, you are not allowed to go out to war. It was last week's Parshat. It says, because you will make everyone else fearful and you'll lose the war for the nation. So yes, being brave is very important in war. However, when it says that Hashem's going to give us our enemies in our hands, when does that happen? Well, all the other issues that I spoke about just now, how do you relate between your husband and wife, you pay your workers on time, keeping morality in the way defined by the Torah, then God will give your enemies in your hands. But if we're fighting for the land of Israel, which is it's the holy land of Israel. We're indigenous to this land as the Jewish religion and nation. So there's only one purpose of us being here, and that's to fulfill our potential as the Jewish nation. If we're not fulfilling that potential, there's no reason to be here. Not in terms of me, in terms of God. There's absolutely none. Okay? Again, imagine he wants to go to the Olympic camp, right? He goes to Olympics and he's resting and he's eating like a pig all day. He's not training. They'll kick him out of the camp. There's no point of him being there. The whole point of him being at an Olympic camp is to work hard to get an Olympic medal. The whole point of the nation of Israel being the land of Israel is to reach our potential as Jewish people in the land of Israel. If we're not reaching that potential, then there's no point of us being here. Therefore, it starts out saying that God will give your enemies in our hands, right? But then it goes to a whole code of ethics, covering everything in life. It's not that it has to do with war. It has to do with our victory. It has to do with the last part of the pasuk. Last part of the pasuk, it says, that God will give your enemies in your hands, if the rest of the parsha is carried out. And that is why maybe that this week's parsha has the most commandments out of all the parashot in the Torah. Because if we're talking about war and we're talking about victory, there's a big if sign there. There's a big if there. Capital I, capital if. Okay? You will win the wars. Arrow, if, go to, right? When I used to, right? Go to keeping all that morals, but it has to do with everything in life. So it's not about the war, it's about the victory. And that's what we're talking about. And that is why, who's here? Menachem, thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate it. That is why in the parasha we're talking about the victory of war. Does it give this moral code with everything in life? Because the secret to victory is keeping that moral code. And it says you cannot have a Moavi come into the nation of Israel, and you can't cross-dress. And it's not because they're bad or good people. It's because the moral code doesn't allow us to. You want to ignore that moral code, that's fine. But then you have no purpose in the land of Israel as a Jewish nation. And therefore, that is the reason why something seemed cruel. It seems cruel. Some of these things, some of the things in this parsha seem cruel. Right? On the one hand, I say you can't put two animals who are not, together to pull a plow because they're not, they're not the same strength, and one will suffer. On the one hand. On the other hand, it says that anybody who comes from a certain nation cannot be Jewish. Well, where's the compassion? So it's not total compassion, it's not total cruelty. There's time to be compassionate, there's time to be cruel. When you are compassionate to a terrorist, you are actually cruel. When you are cruel to a compassionate person, you are doing a horrible thing. Okay, literally a horrible thing. So therefore, there's no coincidence here that the Parsha is talking about war afterwards talks very much about moral codes. I'll just leave you off with a joke and then a small message, and I'm going to finish off here. The people of the world come to God and say, God, it's not fair. You've chosen this Jewish nation and you favor them, and it's just not fair. And God said, what are you talking about? He says, you gave them this beautiful land. They can go north for a couple of hours and go skiing. They go south. They go scuba diving. You gave them this beautiful country. It's not fair. You favor the Jews. So God looks at them and says, wait till you see the neighbors I gave them. Anyway, people, I want to wish everyone a Shabbat Shalom. Before I hang up, I want to remind everyone again what I discussed about the soldiers. And this is really, really important. And I'm asking everyone who's watching. It's very simple. Karen, and thank you for your donation for one of the packages. Karen right here, give her a thumbs up, everyone. She's a proud mother of 2 IDF soldiers. We're now serving, so thumbs up for you, Karen. All right, I want to just discuss with everyone right now before I finish up. Again, we are right now in a huge rush, and I'm very pressured. I don't sleep at night because of this. Our goal is 400 families of IDF soldiers. Okay, again, these are families who their kids, their soldier kids, don't want to come home for the Chag, for the holiday, because they don't want to be a financial burden on their family. And you and I cannot have this happen. Okay, so what we did in standing together, the organization that I run, is we basically opened up a campaign. We're 2 weeks away from Rosh Hashanah. We have 3 weeks away from Rosh Hashanah. We don't have time. Open up a campaign. We were delivering boxes and goods and cards that the families can buy what they need for Rosh Hashanah for the holiday. Each box, each package is worth $70. Our goal is 400 families. It's $28,000 altogether. It seems like a huge amount, but if everybody here who's watching this, when I get out, I'm sure I'm gonna have 1,000 views on here already. If everybody would donate one package, we can only get 400. We can get to 1,000 soldiers. So what I'm asking everyone right now to do, I'm going to finish off right now. Wish everyone a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Shabbat Shalom from the stunning, beautiful rolling hills of Judea, Israel. And as soon as it's over, I'm asking everyone to hit the link that I'm about to put up right now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's right there. I'm going to pin it as well. So you'll have no problem seeing it. We're going to finish off right now. Everyone, please hit the link and join me in showing appreciation, making sure the men and women of the IDF can celebrate Rosh Hashanah, the New Year, like everybody should be able to celebrate. Signing off from the stunning, stunning rolling hills of Judea, Israel. Let me just give you a little peek of what I'm making on here on the grill. Check it out. The chicken has not come out yet. Again, I want to say thank you to Jane Keel for sponsoring the Grill and Torah. For those of you who are wondering, I'm not always doing a grill. It's like 200 to 300 shekels a week. So if you guys want to sponsor this, let me know. But otherwise, it'll be on and off. I'll give the Torah, but not always the grill. All right, people, signing off. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Please share the video out and enjoy. Shut things off on the weekend. Even if you're not Jewish, shut everything off. Spend time with the family, spend time with friends. Take care, everyone. God bless.